Hey guys, before we go into the video, I just wanted to say a couple of things. Thank you for all viewing my videos up to this point. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to try to get out as much content for you as I can over the next coming weeks, but I could really do with some additional subscribers just so I can make the content as best as possible. But thanks to all who viewed my videos in the meantime. Obviously the channel is still growing or still trying to grow, so it's just a game of patience. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to release a couple of Glitch in the Matrix stories. As you can tell, there's been a couple the last couple of days, and there's going to be some more come up dedicated to that subject matter. If there's any subject matter you want to see, let me know as well. So anyway, let's get on with the videos. Number 1. My wife very recently gave birth to our new baby girl. Exciting times. My wife went back to work after 2 weeks after having our little girl. She was the prize breadwinner in the house, so it only made sense that she went back to earning money. On this particular night, I put my daughter to bed around 7 o'clock. It was the time she always went to bed. I tuck her in and I put on the new baby monitor that we bought just days before. I run between the upstairs and the downstairs just to make sure I can hear what's going on the other side. I'm sitting down watching football, and about half hour later, the baby monitor starts making a noise. It kind of sounded like something was interfering with it. I went upstairs and checked all of the electricals, make sure nothing was interfering on it. I came back downstairs, and the same thing was still happening. Now I repeat this a couple of times. I go upstairs, I check the baby monitor, go back down, and it's still doing the same. Eventually, it just stops, and I can hear everything clear as day again. 2 hours later, my little girl starts crying, so I go upstairs, replace her dummy. I hold her in my arms and I rock her a second, thinking how lucky I am. I start singing that song, Hush Little Baby, Don't Say a Word. I had a little joke with my girlfriend, so I replaced the last lyric with, Daddy's gonna make you a big, big nerd. I said it because she had a big Superman onesie on. Anyway, she settles down. I put her back in her cot and make my way downstairs. A couple of minutes after this, the baby monitor starts crackling. I'm notably annoyed, as I think the one I bought may have been faulty. So I stand up, ready to go back upstairs, and that's when I hear it down the end of the monitor. Hush little baby, don't say a word, Daddy's gonna make you a big, big nerd. It repeats again. Somebody must have been upstairs. I run up, but everything is normal. I whisper under my breath, Is there anybody there? But there was no response. I don't know why I called out. The voice on the other end was obviously my own. But it had no recording features or playback features. And at this point I'm terrified that I'm losing my mind. Maybe it's all the sleep deprivation. I don't know. I go back down, see if I can notice where the fault is, or if there's a fault to begin with. I pick up the baby monitor, and I hear it again. Hello? Is there anybody there? It was my voice again. I run upstairs in an instant, and once again everything is normal. My heart is racing, and I'm sweating, and I can't for the life of me think what's gone on. The hairs on my neck start to stand up, as I realised it was without a doubt me on the other end of the baby monitor, and me from mere minutes earlier. Me, but from a different point in time. I disconnected the baby monitors completely, and I slept in the same room with my daughter all night. The next day, I took it back to the shop and got my money back, as it was faulty, but they could never find a fault with the baby monitor itself. I told my wife what happened, and she just put it down to sleep deprivation. But I know what I heard. Number 2. This is going to be very quick. 2 weeks ago, I was watching a movie with my boyfriend. Film was Get Out, and it only just came on DVD. When I sat down to watch the film, there was something familiar about the story, something familiar about the characters. I couldn't shake this feeling, and I even mentioned it to my boyfriend that it seemed almost too familiar. There is one particular scene I remember where he's in the garden and a black man runs up to him and runs past him and brings tension to the scene. Now, before this scene was even there, I remember thinking I knew what was going to happen, as if I'd seen it before. Now, I don't want to risk spoiling a movie for anybody, but the more of the film I watched, the more I knew what was going to happen. I even told my boyfriend what was going to happen before it did, and it wasn't as if it was an obvious scene. You know, a scene that you could just guess. It was the most extreme version of deja vu I've ever had. And even my boyfriend in the end started to think something was up, just because of how much knowledge I had about a film that I had never seen before. Yes, I saw previews. A lot of the film is covered in the trailer as well. But the scenes I told him about, they were very important scenes that they would never show in a trailer. Did I somehow see this before? I did convince myself that maybe I'd heard a conversation once, and it outlined the entirety of the plot, but I simply forgot about it, and it jogged my memory once I saw the film. But I don't know. It seemed too familiar. Number 3. When I was in college, one of the assignments we had to do was about the history of our own town. We had to search and find a subject we were interested in, and we had to build a picture of that. I always liked libraries, so I decided the first place to go would be there. Most people were going to use the internet, and I suppose that made sense. But there was just something about books that I liked. Something about the feel of paper. I'd been looking for a subject for a couple of days. I was back and forth the library so much, I decided that today I was going to find something. So I started looking through old books. They're the kind of book that categorizes old events. It's currently the year 2007, and I start looking back as far as the 80s. Nothing is grabbing my attention. That is until I pull a clear black book off the bookcase. It's a strange book. It has no writing on the front, has no date in which it was printed. It doesn't even have a name of an author or who wrote it, or where its sources come from, which books always seem to have. All it had written on it was a brief history and the name of my town. I start looking through. I start around the 80s. 1987 was when a member of the royal family came to officially open an old war memorial. 1989, there was a mention of a flu epidemic that swept the town, and where a couple of people even died. Now, as I'm going through the years, trying to find a subject, I noticed that the date goes past 2007. I can see 2008, 2009, all the way up to 2017. The first thing that catches my eye is a story in September 2007. We were currently in August, so that was only a month away. It was about a woman who was killed in mysterious circumstances while she protested fox hunting in a local area. All of it was written in a past tense, as it had already happened, not was going to happen. I started to think this could have been some form of joke. Maybe someone in a library was playing a trick on me. Or maybe it was some form of experiment, like some weird form of time capsule. It was possible, I thought to myself, but it was also really interesting, and I really wanted to know more about the book. The library was closing soon, so I wanted to take the book out for a couple of days. I walked up to the woman on the front desk, who looked at me strangely first of all. She said she's never seen this book before, and as she's the one who normally puts them on the shelf, she would know about it. She tells me I can't take the book out yet. The book is currently not categorized. It's something that needs to be done before she can let me take the book. I'm a bit disheartened, But with 10 minutes before the library closing, I go back to where I was sat. I open the book and I make a note of some notable events. The fox hunting woman. An event in 2014 where a barn catches fire and kills over 27 horses. And a third in 2017. A little girl went missing and they found her 2 days later hiding under her bed. Put the book back on the shelf and went home. The day after, I returned to the library. I spoke to the woman I spoke to the day before and asked her if I could take the book out now. She has no knowledge of the conversation I had and no knowledge of any book. I'm confused, and part of me starts to think this is all part of some joke. I go over to the bookcase, and the book isn't there. I even check other bookcases, in case it had been moved. Eventually my memory of the book faded, but I still had all my notes. This was exceptionally handy, as 1 month later, a story broke. The story was about a woman who was found dead in the forest. Yes, you guessed it. She had been protesting the fox hunters. That story had come true. About 2 years later, I moved out of the town. My father got a job in a neighbouring town, and he had to move with it. That was 2009. As I'm writing this, it's February 2018, and is almost 11 years after I found the book. I go back to the library, just out of curiosity. It takes me a while, but eventually, I see the same book I saw all those years ago. But this time it was different. It had writing on it. It had the author. It was Mark something, I couldn't remember the name. It had a publishing year, 2018, and had the same name, A Brief History of, and then the name of my town. I opened the book up, only to see exactly the same events I saw previously. It mentioned the fox hunting girl. It mentioned all the other events I'd wrote down. I even picked up another book, just to check those events actually happened, and they did. The fire that killed all the horses, that happened. And the event of the little girl who was found under a bed was still being talked about, as it only happened a couple of weeks previous. Did I somehow receive a book from the future? Or did those events happen because they were written in that book I read? Seems like a bit of a paradox to me. Can someone send me a book with the lottery numbers for next year? That would be great. But seriously, nobody ever believes me when I tell this story. And glitches in the Matrix is something I've only found out about recently. If somebody have had a similar event happen to them, please let me know. Hey guys, it's Peacemaker here. If you could all do me a favour, like, share and subscribe to the video. Obviously see more content on screen at the end of this video as well from myself. But just don't forget what I say. Be careful of those things that go bump in the night.